Here's the approach to the scene of the accident. A couple things to note here would be, first of all, the posted speed limit, 30 miles an hour. And then, of course, the ubiquitous share the road sign that's all over the place on Grizzly Peak. I'm showing you the approach to the accident because I think it'll be instructive about what happened. Apologies, but it's going to take a while to get there. So, as you can see, we're coming around a bend in the road. There's a double yellow line. Based on the cars that are going by, you can see the road's wide enough to allow a car to safely pass a bike, which is typically what happens. As a pretty avid cyclist, I've been on this particular stretch of road about 150 times. I know that because of my GPS recording of all of my rides. So as we go around this bend here, I looked at the GPS data from my bike computer at that time. I was going about 23 miles an hour. Assuming that Shuji was driving under the speed limit, our relative speeds would not have been significantly different, in which case Shuji would not have approached me very quickly. Assuming he was going the speed limit, his relative speed compared to me would have been about 7 miles an hour. So he would not have approached me very quickly if he was driving the speed limit. So here we are coming around to the straight stretch of road. That was the site of the accident. Just want to point out a couple of things as we approach the skid marks in the road. So the first thing, and it may be difficult to see because of the fog, but as we approach the skid marks, which are sort of off in the distance, but when we walk up to them you'll see, is that there's a pretty good line of sight, but you can see the cars coming around the bend up there. There's not a whole lot of time to complete a pass if you cross the road, which is essentially what Shuji did, and you'll see that basically from the skid marks. You know, with the vehicles coming around the corner, I think it'd be hard to make a safe pass given that their relative speed would have been about 60 miles an hour is how fast they would have been approaching each other. So we'll come up here on the skid marks in the road. And I know these are Shuji's skid marks because they're the only ones on this entire stretch of road. You can probably see that in the video. But they're right here. Don't know if you can see them clearly. I'm going to risk my life here and get out in the middle of the road. But as you can see, the skid marks emanate from the other side of the double yellow line. It was pretty clear based on this position here, and I'll show you again, that Shuji was crossing the double yellow line prior to coming to a skidded halt. So that indicates a couple of things. One, he was either driving recklessly and driving on the other side of the road. The second thing, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, was that he saw me and was contemplating or trying to complete a pass. My guess is, given the steep angle of the skid tracks, that he attempted a risky pass, saw that there was a car coming in the other direction, and given the steep angle of the skid marks, had to jerk back pretty quickly into this side of the road. Had he simply been trying to pass me on this side of the road, I would expect the skid marks to be pretty straight. But as you can see, they're pretty sharply angled, and they clearly start across the double yellow line. Obviously, double yellow line is not supposed to be crossed. There's not a dotted line, so it would not have been permissible, at least from a legal standpoint, for Shuji to cross that double yellow line to attempt a pass. So what we have, a pretty steep angle indicating that Shuji would have tried to pass me across the double yellow line. I'm going to say that the steep angle indicates that he probably had to dodge out of the way of another car. Lindsay did indicate that Shuji said that he was trying to avoid hitting a car coming the other direction. Given that there's a corner straight up ahead, I would say that his pass was unsafe. It would have been too difficult for him to predict or to see the cars oncoming. He should not have attempted a pass, and I believe that this evidence of the skid marks would show that. So as we move up here to the end of the skid marks, they end right about here, and I crash right here into these shrubs where I picked up a bunch of briars. So end of skid marks where I was. Again, had I not dodged out of the way, I would have been hit by the car. So we'll just I'll say again also that after I crashed here, Shuji had gone down the road after his skidded halt about 50 to 100 feet. I got back up, met him down the road here, and then we both agreed to walk up to this area on the side of the road, which is the steam trains, which is where I'm parked. I'm walking you there just to show you that there are no other skid marks on the road. You would have seen in my first part of my video that that was also true. Again, it's pretty clear that those were the skid marks from Shuji's car. And again, just to re-emphasize, I was going about 23 miles an hour. Had Shuji been going the speed limit, he would have been going 30, which would have given our relative speeds about 7 miles an hour. So obviously he was 7 miles an hour faster than me, but that's a pretty slow approach rate. Also bear in mind that there's share the road signs all over the place, and this road is typically populated with a lot of cyclists. So we're walking down the road here. Still no skid marks. There's some rain in the middle of the road. And Shuji and I cross over here. And I stopped here. I called the police, waited for the police for about 15 minutes. Shuji had agreed, and the reason I was willing to leave the scene was that he would pay for my my damages. Of course, the Oakland police don't show up to scenes unless there's a serious injury, which was not the case here, just minor injuries. There's another cyclist over here that overheard most of our conversation. I've been trying to track him down using Strava, but I've had no luck so far. So again, essentially, wide open road. No reason to pass someone across a double yellow line. That's illegal. There's no passing lane. Relative speeds were not that much different, so he did not come up on me quickly. He should have been looking for bicyclists, given that there are signs all over the place. And his line of sight was not long enough to even contemplate a safe pass. There simply wasn't enough distance around the next bend in the road to ensure that he wouldn't hit an oncoming car. So that's the synopsis. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what happened.